That's what it looked like on the lineup. I changed it. Don't worry, I changed it.
Uh,
Hello!
Hi, hi, hi,
How are
hi. Hi.
you? It's good to see you.
Hey.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for National Careers Week.
My
Um,
pleasure.
you were with us last time, were you not?
Yes, probably.
2 years ago, I'm pretty sure. I'm
I
pretty sure
think so,
you were.
yeah.
So you kind of know how this goes. 15 minutes, speedy. Okay, so we've got lots of people watching. They're all very excited to hear from you. I would love you to start by just introducing yourself first and tell us a bit about time-based arts.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Harry Jones. I am the operations director at Time Based Arts. And Time Based Arts, or TBA, we are a visual effects company, similar to Harriet. If you've just listened to Harriet's interview, we do visual effects, but more for commercials. So that's adverts rather than TV or film, although we do some TV and film work, but predominantly commercials. So commercials for brands like Nike, Honda, PlayStation, lots of big brands, lots of really cool adverts. And we are based in London, in Shoreditch, and we are a company of about 60 people, and we're independently owned, and we've been going for almost 18 years. And those are the bullet points of Time-Based Arts.
Love that. Very good synopsis. Thank you so much. And so another specialist company, mostly commercials. Tell
Yeah.
us a bit about that niche.
So obviously there are many TV channels and many streamers, etc. And as much as people probably fast forward the adverts, um, lots of brands obviously use commercials to sell their products. And often within the commercial space, you can be really creative and really experimental with your ideas. And lots of TV directors, film directors start out directing commercials. And so it's an amazing creative space to work in. And within the kind of visual effects space with commercials, you will be working on, for example, at Time Based Arts, we'll probably have 5 to 6 commercials being worked on at any one time. And we are creating after everything's been filmed and edited, we then get our hands on it and we create the visual effects. So we basically polish everything or add all the visual effects into the final film, and then we deliver what you see on TV to the TV channels, essentially.
Okay, yeah, because I think I'm assuming everyone watching won't be aware that that is a kind of layer that exists.
Exactly.
It's actually come up before already this morning with Fran from Camp Productions, and she
Yeah.
was saying that, obviously film and TV is a thing, but production companies can also be working in advertising, on music videos, on stuff like that. There's this kind of other genre of film, if you will, that kind of taps
Yes,
into advertising and stuff.
definitely. And I think, you know, there are, especially in London, but there are TV companies, or should I say production companies and post-production companies, visual effects companies who are working predominantly in the commercial space. And the speed at which you go through jobs is much faster. So it's a much faster turnover of work. So if you worked in film or TV, you might be working on the same project for a year, maybe a year and a half. But with commercials, because they are much shorter, they are 30 seconds long, 60 seconds long, sometimes slightly longer than that. You can probably work on a job for about a month, maybe 6 weeks, and then you're onto something new. So the turnover of brief, the turnover of creative challenge is much faster. And so your learning curve is much steeper because with every job becomes you kind of are faced with a new creative challenge, and you will need to adapt to that brief and adapt to what the director wants. So it's a really interesting kind of variety of work that you'll work on if you work in commercial VFX.
Absolutely. It's a completely different way of working, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that if like for me on a personal level, I think I would get bored if I was working on the same project for a whole year or 2 years or however long. I think that, the variety sounds much more interesting, but possibly, like you say, maybe harder to get your mindset kind of changes?
Yeah, I think there's something for everyone within visual effects, to be honest. I think I used to work in animated feature films a long time ago, and that was an amazing experience. I got to live in a different country and
Wow.
really kind of integrate myself into the visual effects pipeline and learn loads of detail about the animation pipeline and therefore the visual effects pipeline. But it was a bit of a slog, if I'm honest, working on that film for a year and a half. You know, you're looking at the same thing all the time. You're not kind of like faced with new challenges or new stories or anything like that. It's very samey, but then it feels you feel very comfortable in that space. You know exactly what you're going to be faced with every day. So there is a kind of sense of security and kind of you know what you're going to get every day, which can be really comforting sometimes. Whereas in visual effects in commercials, that challenge is different. Every day is different. You are working with different people frequently, and it's just a kind of a higher turnover of kind of day-to-day activities and the people that you're working with.
Two very completely different ways of working. You're so right. So, I mean, everyone watching, maybe that speaks to you on a personal level as well, and you can already identify which camp you fall into. Um, so, tell us a bit, because we heard obviously just now from Union of VFX who they have, what their specialism is, and they have lots of 2Ds.
Yep.
Do you guys have a kind of similar setup in the way that you have like a kind of specialist, kind of not an animator, special effects artist?
Artists. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so we have a 2D department. So they are compositing artists and they use software called Flame or Nuke. We have a 3D department and they predominantly use software called Houdini and Maya. And we have a color grading department, and they use a software called DaVinci Resolve. And those three departments, plus our kind of motion designers as well, who use After Effects, they create our artistic collection of people within the company. They are hugely important and literally create the visual effects. So they are the artists who are using their skills with the software they have learnt. They have an amazing eye for detail, an amazing creative brain to problem solve using the creativity they've got, but also the understanding of the software that they use to create the visual effects. So they are very important. But around that big group of artists, we have support staff, which are also incredibly important. And they can range from anything from producers, accounting, engineers, HR, client services manager, operations, what I do. You know, there's a huge group of people around the artists making sure that they have everything they need to create the visual effects, that their workflows are really efficient, that we have the right computers, the right storage amount, that our accounting team are chasing payments, you know, like all of these components work together to make a business work properly and make a business successful. So a lot of the kind of the creativity comes from the artists, and they are definitely the people on the computers creating the visual effects. But you absolutely need that framework outside of the artistic contribution to the business that are going to keep those people working as effectively and as efficiently as possible.
100%. And this goes actually back to what we were saying this morning when we heard from Proof of Concept, the business of film, and what those people are that you've just described is the business of VFX.
Yeah,
People doing the VFX, and there's the business around it. And that's a really
exactly.
important point for everyone watching to take away. And okay, so what is your advice for a young person who might want to be a 2D or 3D artist? Let's talk about the art side of things.
Yeah.
What's your advice for those people, or for young people watching who I guess have an eye on that job in the near future?
Um, so I would say if you are interested in things like photography, if you're interested in things, if you like taking photos on your phone or shooting videos on your phone, if you like editing, if you're interested in computers or art in general, looking into a career in visual effects would be a really good idea because it's an amazing industry where you can actually combine art and technology in its simplest form to create beautiful visual effects. And I would say that, you know, honing your skills in photography, honing your skills in shooting things on video on your phone are really important. I think if you wanted to go down a kind of educational route, you could definitely look into visual effects courses. There are courses that will teach you how to use Nuke, which is the 2D software, or how to use Houdini, which is a 3D software. There are more general courses where you will learn about everything within visual effects. So you'll touch on some 2D, you'll touch on some 3D, you'll touch on some production as well.
Mhm.
And there are some courses as well that also teach you about color grading and the importance of color, tone, light, etc. And again, that's a huge part of the visual effects process. There are other ways of finding out about visual effects without going into a kind of paid education route, and that's the internet. The internet is your best friend. There are so many resources out there on YouTube, on Instagram, where you can watch videos and teach yourself. There are free versions of Nuke, and I believe there's a free student version of Houdini as well. And you can basically download those student versions for free on your computer, and you can do online tutorials on YouTube, etc. Just to give yourself like a little bit of a taste of what it might be like. What is compositing? What is 3D? You know, they are kind of vast subject, but it's really easy to find out more about it and to understand if it's something that you might be interested in, if it's something that might kind of like get your, you know, get your energy levels up and make you feel excited about doing something. And I think, you can easily Google Nuke tutorials or Houdini tutorials or what is visual effects. All of these resources are available on YouTube, and it's just an amazing way to just figure out if it's something you're more interested in, and then perhaps you can do a deeper dive into a course, or set yourself goals of doing these tutorials online with the end goal of creating a show reel, because a show reel is what you will send to a potential employer to say, hey, I really like Nuke. I would want to be a Nuke compositor. Here's my show reel. And if you do that, you can ask for feedback. And that's really, really important as well. Always ask for feedback, because when you're first starting out, your show reel might not be the best show reel in the world, but getting that feedback and improving your show reel is really, really important.
Absolutely. You can't improve without feedback.
Exactly.
And obviously, like you said, you've just given such clear instructions for building a portfolio or a show reel, without actually even having to pay to go through formal
Yep.
education. Do you think that that is like even if you don't have a degree, is that an issue basically? If you built up a
No, not at all. I think, and I might be jumping ahead to a question, but this is kind of related. I know there's a question around the underrated roles within the company. And I think being a runner, I don't know if you've talked at all about being runners so far today, but being a runner, you don't have to have any qualifications to be a runner. So you don't have to have gone to university. No one's looking at your CV to check what GCSEs and A levels you've got. They're very important, don't get me wrong, but they're not for everyone. That's fine. So we're looking for people in the runner roles who are going to be passionate about visual effects, eager to learn, really applying themselves and coming to work with a great attitude, a helpful attitude, somebody who wants to learn either side of their runner shift, for example, and ingratiate themselves to the team and the people that are coming in and out of the building all the time. Somebody who's inquisitive, somebody who's curious. You don't have to have a degree to be those things. We're looking for like genuine interest and genuine curiosity around visual effects. And it's an entry level position. So, it's what you make of that role yourself. And if you're really passionate about it, but you don't want to go to university or you can't afford to go to university, that is absolutely fine. We have had plenty of runners come through our doors who've not been to uni or not had A levels all at the top grades, but they have shown real passion for the industry, and they have really applied themselves. And some of those people now are heads of department within our company. So we've got some real success stories from people who started as runners. Some didn't even really know what visual effects was. They just kind of liked editing, or they kind of liked filming things. They just had an interest in that kind of post-production world, and they just fell in love with the work whilst they were running there, and were able to kind of sit with people in all the different departments to find out more about what it is to be in 3D, what it is to be a colorist, what, you know, and then they figured out where they wanted to concentrate on, and then we gradually sort of made sure that they were upskilling whilst running to eventually be promoted into the department they wanted to be in.
I mean, that is, I'm sure, music to a lot of people's ears because, you know, you don't always need a degree in the creative industries, and it's good to hear it from someone in people talent, you know, that
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
absolutely the case. And, you know, the fact that there are people running entire departments who don't have a degree speaks for itself, doesn't it? You do
Yeah.
not need a degree to be a responsible individual, guys. Thank you so much, Harry. That is all we've got time for. We're moving on to